party. Are you good? Are you sure you're good?
Yeah, we're live. Everything's going.
Okay, great.
It's just you right now.
All right. So we're in a different setting. If people are like long time after party tuner inners.
All 4 episodes so far.
That's right. No, this is the 5th.
This is
right?
5 now.
Yeah, this is 5. So we were recording after party in another top secret location, just in one of the offices. And now we're down here in the sanctuary simply for setup.
Yeah, we just made it a little easier. We've got cameras already set up for the weekend when we record those elements throughout the week, and we put them together on Sunday. So we just decided, let's just do it all here. We don't have to move as much.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, you were the one. It was you. You were the one having to schlep all of this gear.
It's true. We were moving a lot of gear up and down the stairs,
and it was,
back and forth.
Yeah,
so.
It seemed unnecessary.
Yeah.
So when you were like, "Hey, how's this idea for doing after party in the sanctuary?" Like, great,
You
makes
went
sense.
on it. Okay. Tonight we're doing live on Facebook and on YouTube. So we're trying that out. We're going to see if that makes it easier for people to engage. But it is going to mean it's a little tougher for us to pay attention to the chat on both platforms. So we're going to try. We'll do our best to interact and say hi. But just know that you can say hi to each other, chat with each other for a little while.
For sure.
We'll be back and forth between Facebook and YouTube. So yeah.
Great. So let's check in.
Let's do that.
You also have like 5 screens in front of you.
It's true. There's a lot going on right now.
Okay.
I'm going to bring this up.
Just centered, grounded, present. What are you doing? You're okay. Got it. Great. So how are things at the Duncan household?
Things are good. I mean, things continue to roll along.
Yeah.
The CBE has started to roll out some of their lessons for kids and stuff.
Right.
So Rachel was in there eating about geese today. That was the lesson.
Oh, that was the lesson and the song.
Yeah. So if you saw today,
I did see it.
He wrote a song about geese. That he wanted to sing with his ukulele, and that was because the lesson today coming from his school was also about geese. So that's where that came from.
That's great.
If you missed it and you're friends with Rachel on Facebook, you can find Eaton's.
You too can see that gem
song.
Yeah, I miss Eaton tonight. He was with us last week.
It's true, he was. So
yeah,
he's home tonight.
But what would he tell our listeners?
He would tell everyone to leave a comment down below, like and subscribe. Because that's what they say on YouTube videos.
That's exactly it, and he knows.
Yeah. So we've been doing that. I think the thing right now, at least for my family, that people are bummed out by is the continued wetness and snow. My wife and son are really looking forward to our backyard drying up a little bit.
Right.
So we can get the trampoline out and we can jump around a little bit more.
Right.
Because right now, like, we're all trapped inside. We do have, just the incredible blessing of having a backyard, which a lot of people don't.
I don't.
We do have that, but unfortunately right now it's just a soupy mess, so we can't even really go in the backyard.
Yeah.
Can't even really play with the dog back there.
And we get these like days that tease us.
You know.
And then
so that's what we're looking forward to. We're looking forward to a little warmer weather. So, how about you guys?
Well, I was telling the team today that Jonathan and I played a card game last night.
It's true.
That's where quarantine is at in our home.
And Bobbi has been telling us for a long time she doesn't like games.
I don't like games.
But you played one.
We played one.
What's the game you played?
We played Phase 10.
Phase 10. And explain Phase 10.
It's not,
I don't really totally get it.
I'm bored already just thinking about that. So I'm not going to explain it. But I think I've had that, like, it's like an Uno pack of cards. And you have to like complete sets or runs. And then each turn you try to move forward with your phases.
Okay.
Right. So I was mostly winning, and then Jonathan won in the end.
Jonathan's very competitive, so he probably...
Well, this is the interesting thing is he got really competitive right away, and I was like, who are you? And he said, I have nowhere to put this energy. There's no sports to watch. There's no sports to play. And so all of a sudden we were playing a game where there were some stakes, and all of a sudden like he had that kind of surge of energy. So we are fine. We made it through a phase 10 round.
My issue with my wife Rachel is I'm not overly competitive, like right from the start in a lot of games, except, I mean, it's definitely there. So, but the problem is my wife is like anti-competitive.
Okay.
So she will play a game, and if she's losing, or even if she's winning, but she's winning by too much, then she doesn't want to she doesn't play anymore. She wants it all to be equal and fair. And that drives me nuts. Because I am competitive, but what I really want is I want to win for real. Like I don't want to be given the win.
Right.
And I don't want to lose, but, so that's where our problem comes in.
Yeah.
We play.
Sounds like classic Enneagram issues.
Oh man, an 8 and a 9.
Yeah.
So my wife's a 9,
That's what I
I'm
was
an
thinking.
8. So the
Peacemaker,
big issue
challenger.
is I remember playing Settlers of Catan all the time.
Oh gosh.
And then it would be getting down to the end and be getting close, and then my wife would just make really nice deals with people, like that don't really make sense for her, but it makes sense for the other person. It's not fair. You can't do that in a game. Like that ruins everything. I'm competing for the win, and she's just trying to be nice to people.
I love it.
Terrible.
That's
terrible.
funny. That's funny. Well, yeah, we're doing fine otherwise.
Good.
So that's great. Yeah, we might even play more games.
I think you should play more games.
We might.
Played Chips and Guac.
That's a
No,
game?
we didn't do that
That's
with
a
the
snack.
staff. We did that with my family. I played that with my parents and my sisters.
Oh, okay.
It's this game on House Party, the app.
Okay.
It's sort of like playing Cards Against Humanity, but it's a little more tame. So it's not quite as terrible as Cards Against Humanity. But it was fun. I mean, we had a good time.
Okay.
And with the team, we played Drawful.
That's right.
Which I made you play.
I did play.
Yeah, you did play. You didn't win. Scott won. Scott beat us all. But.
Scott always wins at our challenges.
Scott wins a lot of
He comes in
challenges.
as this nice guy, and then he's
It's
just
true.
like, and he doesn't gloat at all while we're playing, and then we realize, oh my gosh, he's totally kicking our butts.
Do you remember when we did go-karting with the team?
Yeah, I remember.
And nobody could beat Scott.
No, he was untouchable.
Because Scott worked at a go-karting track, like in high school or
And he was
university
so
or something.
nice about it too.
So yeah, that was a good one.
Also, I beat Kevin every time. Kevin.
This is true. Whenever this is over, and we're allowed to hang out, like,
Right.
with less distance to this, then we're going to take our team go-karting.
That's right.
So,
And then we'll talk we'll have a whole after party dedicated to debriefing.
just to debriefing the go-karting experience.
You'll love it. You'll love it. All right, great. So we just came through a big weekend. Good
Like
Friday
the big
service.
weekend.
Like the big weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get the article right.
In our world, like in the
Totally.
industry that we work in. This is,
in our industry.
Yeah.
It's High Holy Day.
Yeah.
Biggest feast. So, I mean, we packed in a lot of things. We did Stations of the Cross through YouTube with Scott hosting that experience. We did our Good Friday. We did Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
What am I missing?
Palm Sunday.
Palm Sunday. Right.
Sort of part of the whole
Right.
Holy Week package.
Right.
All of that.
So I mean, I was pretty tired yesterday. My Monday, I was like, oh, I think I'm just going to make a little sewing project and putter around my house for hours.
I don't blame you.
I know.
It was
kinda
a
tired.
busy day. It felt
It was
different
different.
than
Yeah.
other Holy Weeks, though. I mean, I think
Yeah.
there was still some of the sort of excitement around it.
Yeah.
At least I think there was in the community, hopefully, but I think certainly on our team.
Yes.
But usually, Holy Week, like we do 5 services on Sunday, like everybody's in the whole time.
Right.
It's so busy, and then you kind of get through it. And it's this sort of big letdown, not letdown in a bad way, but sort of letdown in a good way. It's like, hey, we came through this, and all that sort of
Right.
adrenaline dump happens.
Yeah.
This was a kind of a funny one because
Yeah.
we were, as is our new normal now, we are creating elements for the service over the last couple of weeks. Filming pieces, putting them together, some of it live, some of it pre-taped. And then it's like you just sort of hit play and
Yeah.
you go live and you interact with people
Yeah.
and you're in the chats and you're in the Zoom saying hello to people. But it's different than sort of like
Yes.
going through it 5 times.
And
on a Sunday.
welcoming like hundreds and hundreds of people
Yeah.
in our space. Definitely felt different. I think I'm still thinking about that.
Yeah.
The differences.
Yeah,
What it felt like.
I mean, I am interested in that. Like, because I've been thinking about this for myself. What was your experience of Holy Week this year? Was it, did you mourn the changes that were happening? Did it feel sad? Was it just too busy to?
Those are good questions. I don't know that I mourned. I mean, some of the funny things about working on these projects of Good Friday and Easter is that we sort of like are in the themes before the general public are in the themes, you know, where I'm thinking about Good Friday like weeks before I write my Good Friday message. So I think those things didn't necessarily map on exactly onto the days in the same way, but I did a lot of writing. Like I felt very aware that like a lot of words and sort of creative projects were moving through from, you know, the Good Friday message to like the Easter opener, the Eucharist, and like there were just like a lot of words. And I enjoyed it. I think I was quite aware that this moment was inviting like a different kind of creativity from us. And that felt like intriguing and interesting and kind of fun to lean into, I think. Yeah. What about for you?
I mean, I think it was different. There was definitely an element where I really missed the, I think I can say it this way, just the ego of like so many people that come and you're there and you talk to them, you get to share something important. Like it's beautiful. I'm not taking away from that, but there's an element of just like, it's fun to have that much energy in the room and to miss out on that, you know, one of those high points in the year was a bit of a loss.
Yes.
At the same time, just watching people interacting, hearing the comments from people, particularly how meaningful Easter was during these circumstances, that we were able to still put together something that felt like it connected us and also felt like it honored, you know, the season, was really gratifying. It was a weird mix of emotions. Like I felt really proud of our team. Yeah. Like our team worked really hard. I think they did beautiful work. I think all of you guys wrote incredible pieces. They performed well. Really put more than just excellence into it. Really put a lot of care into everything, and I was really proud of that. But yeah, I mean, it was just it's a very different experience.
Yes.
Like, you know, and I tried to name it in the sermon, just like even flipping the camera around and just be like, hey, it's Easter, and here I am in a completely empty room by myself, talking to a camera, you know,
the authenticity of that felt. I mean, I think like this whole experience is forcing us into these circumstances that somebody said in an email to me this week, no one consented to this. And I thought I've been thinking about it ever since reading it. Like, there wasn't this like, okay, we're going to change everything. Everybody cool? Let's go. You know, and I think there are all of those ways that like when you're forced to change directions or like reimagine something, it just takes a while to catch up to that. It
does. And yet, on the other side, there's that, there is an element of creativity that sort of blossoms and comes out when you, once you sort of make peace with, okay, this is the cards we've been dealt. This is what we have. This is the story that we are tasked to tell this year and every year. How do we tell that story well? How do we honor the tradition of Easter? How do we honor this narrative that comes back every 12 months and we rehearse it again? How do we do that given our circumstance? And there was moments throughout the week where I thought to myself, and I'm not being overly dramatic here, but like during, you know, the Black Plague or during the Spanish flu or during periods of persecution in church history, like how did we, meaning the church, come together to recognize Holy Week? And we have for 2,000 years, in all kinds of different cultures, in all kinds of different moments, in all kinds of different settings, we've found a way to do it. And there was something sort of reassuring about that to me, to say, okay, we don't exist, this is unprecedented. At the same time, we don't exist out in nowhere. We exist within this long tradition of people who have found a way to celebrate resurrection in trying circumstances. And that to say, you know, trying, for me, for you, for a lot of people in our community, is nothing compared to what has happened throughout the last 2,000 years of church history. At the same time, not downplaying, you know, what's happening to a lot of people in this country as well. But recognizing, okay, like, that's also the story that we're part of. We're part of the story of Christ's resurrection. We're part of the story of the church's resurrection that happens over and over again every year as we learn to tell the story in new ways.
I mean, the words that are coming to my mind as you're talking is this, in some ways, these restrictions, but also this expansion. Like the paradox of those things that coexist in this moment are really interesting to me. Like that we joined with like this larger cloud. Like I think our friends in the Orthodox tradition hold more closely this idea that you're always worshiping with the saints, that you're surrounded by those who've gone before you. And I think that feels kind of close as you're talking about that awareness of church history and that ability to like innovate and persist and like bring even closer some of these themes.
I'm remembering now, I think probably would have been a year ago. In September, we did a series called The Problem of Prayer. And I remember one of the ideas that I talked about in that series was the liturgy of the church, the tradition of the church calendar, all of these strictures and restrictions on us that keep us bounded, give us sort of the platform for creativity. And I remember the example that I used at the time was when you learn to play guitar, like one of the first things you learn like your basic chords, your cowboy chords, or you learn your minor pentatonic scale or major pentatonic scale if you're into playing guitar. And it limits you, pentatonic scale, just to 5 notes. Like you can only use 5 notes, but those 5 notes always work basically in that key over any chord that you can play. So you can be creative with them and you can be safe within them. And especially when you're learning, having that restriction actually helps to bring out a lot of creativity. And I think there was an element of that, I think, for our team this week. So it's like, okay, we have this story of Good Friday. We have this story of Easter. We have all these restrictions where we can't rely on them. Like, we can't get a donut truck. Like, I mean, I know it's silly and it's stupid. Because, I mean, what does that have to do with Easter? And nothing, really, other than celebration and joy. But it's like, okay, you can't bring that kind of joy in cheaply. So now you have this restriction, but you still have the note of joy to play. And how are you going to play that? And that was what we came up with that little liturgy, where we had everybody in the community read these lines and we pieced them all together. And it's like, we need a note of joy. How are we going to do that without donuts? Well, we're going to do it by seeing each other's faces, and we're going to play these things, and we're going to do it. And I think sometimes when you have those restrictions, but you know the notes to play, we need some joy, we need some doubt, we need some worship, we need some beauty, we need all of those things, and then you figure out how to put them together. You end up with maybe not something that's ideal, but something that's still good. Well, I think that was kind of the interesting experience of, especially Easter Sunday, the service that we did for a live stream, was that I was very aware of all of the pieces. So as people working on the thing, but when we put it all together, it was pretty like, I was very moved. And I had seen the videos multiple times. I had made some of them, but still together with different images and the music that you put just under some things. Like it was quite, it ended up surprising me. Rachel and I were talking, it's a weird one, but the moment in the Eucharist when you, I think it was when you ate the bread, but you've talked about that, and then we cut to these shots of like families eating together and stuff.
It totally got me.
Exactly, like, that was the one for Rachel and we were like, oh man, like that was where you kind of felt the emotion of it, because I think the beauty of the story was there, but then it was like, as you were talking and as you in person were eating, there was all this shot of
it's kind of intimate
together and stuff, and then it was like this callback to the opening shots of all the people in the community, and it was a really beautiful moment in its own way. So.
People have said some really lovely things about that. Now, do you want to just check this sound?
Oh, okay. On which one?
Somebody has said that audio is a bit heavy on the reverb, FYI.
Oh.
I don't even know what it means. So...
That I'm not sure where we would be getting any reverb on that. So we might have one more thing we can try to fix for next week.
Okay, sounds good.
It doesn't look like we're peaking at all. So well, we're doing our best. Sorry about that, everyone.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about the sort of feeling of doing something different for this particular week?
The one thing I wanted to say was I want to give a shout out to the creative team for that song that they wrote for Good Friday.
I just look at it.
Beautiful.
I don't know why I did that, but it just melted. It melted me. I mean, I had said on Facebook, like, I do have my sentence was like, I have 1,000 hangups when it comes to a lot of the music that we sing for all of my personal reasons. And that song, I could like let go of some of the things I sometimes build up around my ears just to protect myself. Yeah. And I continue to go back to it. It is.
Yeah, we
stunning.
Obviously the team had been working on that before Good Friday. They've been building that thing. But I think just having, obviously it was beautifully done. Obviously the talent was incredible.
Yeah.
But just having it done, a narrative and a song and words and melody from within the community in this moment, when there are so many restrictions on all of us, I think that was a really beautiful thing to see. It would have been beautiful any Good Friday, but particularly in this moment.
This one, it's really like we're all neat. A little more open. There's something about it that could kind of sneak past some things, but it is beautiful. Like it's like the melody is beautiful, the lyrics, and I said to Kevin, and I think I said it in my Facebook post too, that it felt like it reached past some of those like lower hanging metaphors that are available to us, which are wonderful and good and helpful for a lot of people, but it like reached up to the next level of metaphor that's available to us. And also there's a Mary.
Yeah, and I think all of it. It was great.
It's really
the one thing, so first of all, if you haven't heard it, then go on our YouTube channel, look for Faithfully. It's on there, you'll see it. You can listen to the song if you didn't get a chance to on Good Friday. The one thing that struck me was even the chorus of the song is about the idea of God loving us faithfully. And I said to Kevin, we just did our Romans series, and part of that whole series was all about reframing some of our language. Where we're so used to talking about our faith in Christ. And a lot of what Paul is talking about Romans is our trust in the faithfulness of Jesus to us. That God is faithful to us. God sends Jesus. God loves us in Jesus. And then to even hear that echoed back in the song that our community wrote, the chorus ending on this idea of God loving us faithfully, I thought was just a really beautiful expression of both good theology, but also the beauty of the words that we're sharing all the time in the community, which I thought was really cool. So.
Yeah, it was so fitting. It's a fitting song for this community.
Yeah.
And beyond. I was joking today in our team Zoom meeting that like my friends from all over, are really into it. But friends of mine who I, was in church with in Vancouver or California have all like posted or let me know like how much they love the songs. It's pretty cool. Again, this like moment of restriction is also adding expansion to some of the work that we do, which is surprising.
Well, that's the paradox of
exactly.
I think the Jesus story is over and over again throughout Christian history. The more we find ourselves limited, the more creative I think the church has been in expressing her story well and talking about the grace and peace of Jesus. Like when things are not well is when the church sort of rises to the occasion and sometimes. And hopefully some of that is happening. Some of around the world the church is not rising well to this moment.
Right.
I think some of it is really beautiful. And to see that kind of spread and to even see the connections that we're making with these YouTube services with people, who are watching from all over the world and talking to us in the Zoom chat after and saying hi. That's been sort of a remarkable thing.
It's been wild.
Yeah, really.
And now they're like known. Like, some of our friends who have been tracking with us for a long time, who we didn't know were our friends, are becoming like real people who are becoming known to us.
Yeah, so there's all these people that sort of watch the YouTube channel and have for years. But now because we're live and we have a Zoom chat, like we've seen them, not in person, but we've seen them on camera. Like, and they've been like, oh, I've been watching for 6 months, or I've been watching for a year.
Some of them for years.
And it's really cool. So if you are watching, then please jump in. Like it's a really neat thing for us to sort of see, like the work that we're doing is connecting with people and it resonates in deep ways. And it's really beautiful. So,
it is really beautiful. Do you want to talk a little bit more about some of our messages from the weekend?
Sure.
Great.
You went first on Good Friday.
I did Good Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the one thing that stuck out to you in terms of reflecting on Good Friday?
Well, it was kind of funny because I had this text that we had decided we were going to at least start from for the Good Friday message, the passage in Matthew 12, where Jesus makes reference to Jonah and being in the belly of the whale, and then he being in the heart of the earth, and then does this call out to Nineveh and then to the Queen of Sheba, or to the Queen of the South.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got into that passage, like I couldn't leave it. And we chatted later, and I said, well, what were you going to do with that passage if you preached?
Yeah.
And you were like, I would just start with it. I wouldn't stay in it that long. And then I couldn't leave it.
Totally.
I just kept like diving into that passage. And then one of my thoughts in preparation, I thought, when is the next time that I get to talk about the Queen of the South? Like this reference to this woman like trekking across the world to see Solomon and his wisdom. And then she being this judge later who comes out of, from the outside. That was the point, right? The Ninevites, the Queen of the South, they come from the outside, and they're the people who offer some sort of judgment in the future, whatever that looks like. And I just couldn't leave the passage. So I just stuck with it, and then ended up layering it on some of the scenes, sort of chopped up some of the verses and like layered that Matthew 12 passage on some sections from Matthew 27. In a sense, sort of stood each of my sections on top of like a little line from the crucifixion scene. So my point was, and I just couldn't leave that idea of, like Jesus sinking in solidarity with us, lowering into life with us, that I was just like, I'm going to just stay with it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I love that image of, instead of raising Jesus up, what does it mean for us to lower ourselves down with Jesus?
And of course, I'm not saying that language should be taken like off the deck at all. Like if that's been really meaningful language to people, this like idea of like the lifted one, great. I just wanted to expand that and just focus on this imagery of descent and solidarity and lowering.
I mean, I think that's a great point just in general, because I think a lot of what we do at Commons is trying to find new language and new metaphors for things. Because I think sometimes metaphors can come with baggage. It's not the metaphor itself, it's the way it's been expressed to you.
Totally.
Or
I've got loads of that.
Or it's those types of things.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think it's really important that we work hard to redeem language.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we too quickly just say, oh, that one's used up, or that one's too tarnished, and we sort of banish it from our vocabulary when there's a lot of beauty there. And I mean, we're going to talk about Easter in a second, and that's what resurrection is we bring things back and we give them new life. So there's something really important about that. But when we add new metaphors or we add new language, I think it's also really important to say that doesn't mean we replace. It means we keep telling the story in new ways and we keep adding to the story.
Right.
So absolutely, there's going to be metaphors that resonate with me deeply because of my experience. And they're going to come up regardless in my language and in my talking.
Yeah.
I try not to make all of my language in a sermon just my language. Like I try to make it as inclusive as possible for the range of people that are here in the room.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, it's my language. I'm writing, I'm speaking from my experience, so it's going to be there. So, when people maybe don't hear language that's meaningful for them, then first of all, we honor that this is good, and this language can be beautiful too, and you should hold on to that, and you should love that. But then also, sometimes you can just let us know, and we can try to work those things in. Not always, but there's a beauty in trying to figure out how do we continue to tell new stories and to redeem old language and add new language. But just because I talk about something one way or Bobbi talks about it another way, it doesn't mean we're sort of devaluing the range of language and the range of stories that come to us. I mean, that's the beauty of one of the lines I said on Sunday was something about coming back to the story, the central story that gives meaning to all of our stories. But that idea of the story of the Christ, life returning, resurrection, like that's the story that sits at the heart of all of our stories that we're telling all the time. Like, from fiction and books to poems to songs
musicals.
Ways that we speak.
Right.
This is, to believe that those kinds of things are alive in the world. Yes, there's the resurrection of the historical Jesus, but resurrection is around us all the time, animating everything. When you can begin to see resurrection in a book, or when you can begin to see resurrection in a relationship, or when you can see resurrection around you in the spring, those things, when you connect the dots, are what help you understand the resurrection of the Christ that brings new life back always. It's almost, I think, too hard to start with the resurrection of Christ. That story is too big.
Right.
You can't start there. I can't start there. I have to start with the spring. And I have to go, oh yeah, life comes back. Life finds a way. Life returns. And then slowly I build up the trust and I build up the hope to let me have faith in the resurrection of Jesus. And then when I get the faith in the resurrection of Jesus, and then I see all my life in new ways, and it creates this virtuous cycle. But I think sometimes we like front load it, where you're like, you've got to go to the story as it was told to you. The first time you walked into church, and you've got to buy all of it right now from the start, instead of sort of allowing yourself the time to work up to it, which is basically what my message was on Sunday. Down from worship and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, it has me thinking in images, just as you did that with your hand, like this kind of connect the dot reality of like, oh, I see a little bit of spring here. I feel some joy here. There was this story that was sort of sinking in my life, and it's starting to like come up again or have some float. That like the image of connecting those lines and forming that picture, moving into something like so much more intricate, impossible to behold in one viewing, the sort of like large R resurrection, is beautiful to think about. Oh, you can't get there, or you're not so sure that even happened? Find small R resurrection, connect some of those dots, see what does that do for you in your story, in your experience.
And my experience is, not just in my own life, but in people that I've been around as a pastor for, close to 20 years now, is that the more you can help people see that small R resurrection that surrounds them all the time, and they start to believe that resurrection is possible.
I mean, every day we go to sleep at night, and I wake up in some sort of version of like, hopefully, if I had a decent sleep, like although our sleep is quite interrupted these days, there are like articles right now about that, and I've had some really strange dreams. But even that rhythm of every day, actually, I'm sorry I cut you off, but I got excited about connecting just like the day cycle to something of like smaller resurrection.
And once you see that, then I think slowly the big story of resurrection, that sits at the heart of the Christian story, actually starts to become more possible.
But maybe it goes in waves too.
Yeah, it does, definitely.
I think there have been times in my life when I've been like, oh yeah, and other times when I thought, oh, no. And so maybe it's not just about getting there, but it's about like finding ways to return to it again and again and again, as you are with the differences in your life as you are.
Yeah, and that was the central piece in the message on Easter Sunday, was this idea that the disciples come to meet the risen Christ, and when they do, they worship and they doubt, and those things sort of go together. And that it's worship and doubt, but it's even, as we talked about on Sunday, they bow down and they refuse to come any closer. Like they hesitate to move towards Christ. And this whole idea that for all of us at some point, and maybe in that ebb and flow, we're going to hesitate to be able to make sense of resurrection. We're going to hesitate to be able to believe the way that we want to. And yet, in that climactic moment, the actual risen Christ didn't take offense to that. Right? He sees them hesitate, he sees them doubt, and the first thing he does is walk to them. And yet sometimes we have this baggage where we're like, oh, if I don't believe things immediately all the way right now, God is going to want nothing to do with me. And I think what we see at the end of the Gospel of Matthew there is when we're honest about that, and we can say, hey, like, I want to worship, but I'm having trouble with this. That's the moment that Christ moves near to us. And when we begin to have that kind of trust that Christ is going to look after you, Christ is going to do good for you, Christ is not going to leave you on your own no matter what, that's where our expression of doubt actually becomes the thing that brings us into a sense of trust. Like I think when we don't allow ourselves to name our doubt, then it becomes almost too impossible to
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
And so this is the irony of naming your doubt, allowing it to be there, is what enables you then to trust that everything's going to be okay.
Right.
And that Christ is going to find you.
Yeah.
And that was, I mean, the other language I used was that worship and doubt have to come together, because the whole point of worship is to trust in something that's too good to be true. If it wasn't too good to be true, it would be neat, but it wouldn't be worth worship.
Right.
Right? So, by the very fact that we deem something worth our worship means there's always going to be some level of us that's going to doubt it. Like, can it really be this good? Can the good news really be this beautiful? And that's okay, because we're not ready to see a world filled with the goodness of Christ. But that's what we hope for.
Right. Work towards.
That's why we worship. And so the more we name that, the more we're honest with that, the more Christ is able to come towards us to meet us in the midst of that.
Right. I kind of ended the Good Friday message with we don't have a world like we want it to be. We don't have the answers to the world's most complex questions. You and I are, doing this work. I have a Master of Divinity, and we don't have a corner on the answers that the world needs, but that Jesus walks with us all the way to death.
And then on Easter, you're supposed to be at the point where you say, now we do have the answer, and Christ is risen, except this year we had to do it in an empty room. So we have to talk, we have to
Which feels
talk about it in
real.
ways.
That's real all the time, though.
It is.
Whether the room is full or not, that we are declaring this thing while many in the world don't feel anything of resurrection. Right. That's the complexity of arriving at this feast day, especially, that death has turned to life in our imagination, in some sort of cosmic way. But I think there's something about the reality of we felt it a little bit more acutely, but I think that's what we're always doing.
And maybe that's part of why it resonated for some people so much, is because now, because of the situation, it's we were forced to name the fact that, hey, sometimes resurrection comes and we're still not quite ready for it. We had to name that this year. But maybe for some people, part of why it resonated, because last year they weren't quite ready for it either. And
it's don't force me.
Yeah,
I'm not ready.
Exactly. So maybe there is a beauty and there is a gift in this moment. Where we have to celebrate resurrection in a way that is full. But tentative and frail and delicate all at the same time.
Those are lovely words.
It's not half-hearted. It's just fragile. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. It's a whole, and that's what I love about the disciples in that moment. They bow down and they worship, and it's not half-hearted. It's just very fragile, because they're they bow down, but they don't want to go any closer, because what happens if we walk up? Does he disappear? Is this just a mirage? Is this really real? I want it to be real so bad that I'm going to bow down and I'm going to worship. I'm so afraid that it's not real that I just don't want to get any closer. And I think that's probably how some of us feel all the time.
Exactly.
And this year, we got to name it.
Keeping company. So it's Easter Tide, which is 50 days, 7 weeks of celebrating resurrection. And I was curious to know or to consider some invitation for how we would look for. We've talked about that a little bit, but one of the things I did today, I was thinking about Eastertide and 50 days of kind of celebrating our baptismal identity, our belonging, and on this side of this part of the Christian story. And I drew a little Easter egg in my bullet journal. I'm a big bullet journal person, and I have all my lists, and I sometimes feel like I can't think until I sit down with my journal and write out the thing I need to work out. So I had this idea to put an Easter egg on the page, and I just colored it in. And as this reminder, and I had been doing some reading around the imagery around Eastertide as this reminder to continue to look for new life for 50 days. I wanted it to leave an imprint in my journal that I would I'd need to go back to. Why is this? Oh, right. 3 pages ago, I drew this Easter egg, and it's this symbol of an empty tomb, of new life. That is the tradition of that symbol. And so that was one of the things I did, to just be like, keep looking. Like, even though Easter Sunday has passed, like, we are in a season of Easter. And I think I needed to put some sort of image in my path to draw me back to these themes again and again.
I think that's really neat.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, I like it.
I've never done that before.
It is true to think about Eastertide. So for the next 50 days, we're supposed to be celebrating. We're supposed to be joyous.
It's a long feast.
It's a long feast. And yet
like
we are
weeks
probably
of
going to
it.
be doing this inside for the next 50 days.
Exactly.
It's an interesting
It
parallel.
really is. And I thought, don't forget to look for life, Bobbi. Like, find a way to take a symbol of this season and keep it in front of your face,
So we were talking, I made the video for this week that'll go up, I guess, Thursday on YouTube. And I couldn't remember what I talked about. I was like, I don't know, I talked about something. But now I remember.
Okay, good timing.
Story.
Okay.
But, when you think about, so there's the women that go to the tomb, they meet Jesus first. Then there's the disciples that are invited to see Jesus.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about it. So there's the other Mary who's at the tomb.
Yeah.
She's the mother of these two. They're not part of the 12 disciples, but they're followers of Jesus.
Right.
And we don't really know much about them. We just know their names.
You said something neat about them just off the page.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, but that's what I started to think about. Was, expanding on that idea. There's all kinds of people like that. Like, we read this reference to the 70. There's the 12, and there's the 72 that follow Jesus, and then there's the crowds. So the women see Jesus at the tomb. The disciples see him on the mountain. He appears to the 12, and then he appears to the road on the road to Emmaus. But the 72, like, how long did it take for them to hear about resurrection? No doubt, some people, like, right away, somebody ran and told them, "Hey, did you hear what's happened?" But then I started to think, like, there's other people who were more in the crowd, and it's probably like a month or 2 months later, somebody grabs them in the marketplace and like pulls them aside and is like, "Hey, have you heard about this happening?" Then I thought, what about people who came to Jerusalem on Palm Sunday with Jesus, did the triumphal entry, saw him executed, and then went home to wherever they lived in the Roman Empire? Like, how long did it take for news of resurrection to reach those people?
Right.
So, I always think of the women there first ones to hear the resurrection. Who are the last ones to hear resurrection? Who come from Asia Minor to see Jesus, and then he dies, and they throw up their hands and they immediately leave the city and they go home.
Right.
And then a year later, somebody says to them, "Oh, you haven't heard? Like the tomb is empty, Christ is risen." And just that thought of, so we're so used to this idea that on Easter is when we celebrate resurrection. There would have been a lot of people following Jesus that didn't celebrate resurrection for weeks, months, or years after, because the news wouldn't have reached them. And what does that mean for all of us right now who maybe aren't quite ready to do resurrection yet? Like, we sat through it because it's Easter, but we're not quite ready. There's something beautiful about realizing that there were people who knew Jesus. Resurrection didn't reach them for months. Resurrection didn't reach them for years. And maybe resurrection hasn't quite reached you yet.
Right.
You're in good company with that. You're not alone in that.
Yeah.
There were legitimate, serious followers of Jesus in his time here on earth, and it took resurrection a really long time to get to that.
Right.
And so we have 50 days.
Right.
And maybe at like day 48, it's like you start to, okay, there it is. Now it is. Now I remember it. And maybe it's not even during Eastertide. Our lives don't work on a calendar.
Totally.
But that whole idea of that sometimes the things don't reach us on the days that they're supposed to. It comes later down the road. And I think there's something kind of interesting about that.
Yeah, that's a really fun
I've always thought
exercise.
About who were the first people to hear Jesus, resurrection. Who are the last people to hear? Who's the last... obviously there's still people hearing now, but who is the last person who saw Jesus in the flesh to finally hear that he came back? I don't know. I took a lot of comfort in that.
That's really fun. Yeah, it's kind of that like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What? And then we are still those people.
Yeah.
Like, we are still those people that the resurrection is sort of like on its way for.
And Jesus prays, I pray for those who will hear about me because of the disciples.
Even more
like,
blessed are they.
Yeah, like that's us.
Yeah.
Like we are literally those people who heard because someone told the story.
Right.
And Jesus prays for us.
Right. One other thing I wanted to mention about Eastertide, I was reminded that this week, I mean, it's pretty dreary here, but all of the days of this first week after Easter are bright. Bright Monday, bright Tuesday, bright Wednesday, bright Thursday. They all have that potential in them. So I just loved thinking about that in my own like liturgical brain.
Yeah.
And our daily prayers started. We're doing another round of daily prayers on our social media that our
By the
team
way,
is writing.
If you haven't been following these, so I haven't written any of them. Bobbi has put together and listed the rest of the staff. They are beautiful.
Yeah.
We did.
Like we have to publish them in
they're
a book.
incredible. It's prayers. So a week of prayers, a week of readings.
Yeah. Centering words. And benedictions.
And they are beautiful. They go up on all of our social channels.
And then they're
daily.
highlights on our Instagram account right now. So if you missed them, you have a prayer book right in front of you right now with the highlights on our Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're writing new prayers again this week, and we'll rotate through those 4 themes every week.
Yeah, it's so well done. And I just found they've been such a blessing, I think. So people definitely use that as a resource because they're great.
Yeah, they're beautiful. Yeah. So may the brightness of this week find you. I trust that it will. So we have new series launching this Sunday.
We do.
And it's interesting that we have some of these themes. My Big Loud Mouth, How to Be Mad, and inspired our next 3 series. I mean, maybe 7 weeks. Does that take us? It does take us into.
So those 3 series will take us right to summer. Okay. Quote unquote.
So for Eastertide, though, we're in My Big Loud Mouth and How to Be Mad, or How to Be Angry.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, the themes are a little like, they're a little shadowy for the brightness of the season.
Yeah, it's true.
But we're just
interesting how sometimes
the
that
realness
comes together, right?
So. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to say anything about what's to come? I mean, we're still working
the
those
next
things
series
out.
that's coming up is My Big Loud Mouth.
Yeah.
And we're talking about some of the things that we sometimes say that we wish we could take back.
Right.
And originally, the thinking around this was, hey, you're coming out of Easter. It's a good time to talk about sort of relationships and felt needs and all those types of things that we're all sort of deep in the weeds of, right? Here's resurrection. Now what does it mean to make amends, to fix relationships and all that stuff? And usually sort of coming out of Christmas, coming out of Easter, we try to do some type of a more topical type of series that can kind of connect with people. Because let's be honest, at those times of the year, a lot of people reconnect with their spirituality and their religious traditions. And we try to say, okay, like, here's how this story of Advent or this story of resurrection can be meaningfully, immediately applicable for you. Right. So that was the thinking a year ago when we planned this. But now, I mean, maybe there's new resonance in new ways, and that's what we'll start exploring this week. Right. But I don't have it all in front of me, but I think the ideas were around, this week, I'm going to talk about God has a plan. You know, how sometimes we say things that we think are going to be helpful. Right. Oh, God has a plan and all this stuff. And sometimes that's just not, it's not helpful. It's not great. And actually coming right now, in the midst of all of it, things that are going on, sometimes it's not helpful to say, God has a plan for all of this. Right. Like right now, sometimes it's okay just to be sad about this and not have somebody try to cheer you up.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that. Yeah. We're going to talk about I hate you, I think is the second one. Yeah. But just like, sometimes we say things that are mean. Yeah. And
I definitely do when I'm hungry. I'm really mean when I'm hungry. Like, surprisingly. So, and then I think, is that my true nature?
Yeah. Rachel's mean when she's tired. That's it.
Oh,
she's
really?
so nice. She's never mean to me. That's the only time. But yeah, sometimes you say things that are mean, and it's like the moment it escapes your lips, you're like, I wish I could shove that back in. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about oversharing. Yeah. In the third week. So you share something that's a little too vulnerable, and you realize this wasn't the right context, this wasn't the right person. Yeah. That's a big one. Yeah. Sometimes it's something you really need to share. Yeah. But what you didn't
it wasn't the right person.
Oh. Trying to take that
my experience with that. Whoa. Well, tell me more about that.
Yeah,
Sure.
I will in a couple of weeks.
Okay, great.
When I process it
Yeah,
all and
okay.
prepare exactly how I want to talk about it. And then the last one is gossiping. So
Yeah.
telling someone else's story.
Right.
When it's not your story to tell.
Right.
So we're going to talk about those 4 things.
It's going to be more than like your youth group talk.
Yeah, I guess so.
gossip.
So
I was like,
think
when
that
was the
can
last
be-
time I heard that?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, a year ago, the idea was, hey, people are more open to spirituality.
Yeah.
It's Easter. It's that time. Let's talk about real relationship stuff. Now,
Well, I mean, Scott made this point this morning in our team, or the 3 of us were chatting through the teaching schedule, and the reality of like, we're like up close and personal in a different way in proximity with those that are closer in our lives. So I think it is really appropriate to
and
be
not
talking
just that,
about
like on
this.
social media, we're all sort of like a little judgy. We're like, we're all watching each other right now.
Right.
Like, just what else can we do? Other
Right.
than sort of like look through the blinds and see what other people are
totally.
doing and stuff like
What's
that.
happening out
the
there?
digital blinds.
Right.
So there is an element of that.
Right.
So, so we're going to name some
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
And then how to be angry.
Yes.
This is your series.
Right.
We talked about this last week.
I'm going to
She-Hulk.
share a little bit of it with you. You're going to step in for the last one, I think. Right?
Yeah, I think so. We're still putting that schedule together, but I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of love anger. I've done some work with my own anger and saw the sort of important force of justice that it's been in my life, discernment, like all of the gifts that anger has given me, and have like genuine sacred stuff around anger. But also when we go into a series like this, I'm very aware that there are like landmines all over in terms of how people see anger or hold anger, or how it's become something quite toxic in their lives. So we're going to explore it, and I think we're going to do it with some of the weird stuff in the book of Daniel. I just can't like shake some of those images of like throwing people in a furnace and but Nebuchadnezzar as well is this character that like is kind of all over the page in terms of the experience that he brings in the beginning part of Daniel. So I think we're going to go that post-exilic again. I'm kind of intrigued by that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So those are the next 2 series.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back. That gives us the next 7 weeks, and then we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
If you already have your journal, then you've already seen this.
Yeah. We're sticking with it.
Yeah. If you don't have a journal, if you're joining us, in the last couple of weeks online, and you don't have a journal, there's something physical that we print. I've always got one here.
Here, guys.
So we print this.
Where is it?
This goes out
Right.
to the community
Right.
every September.
Yeah.
And it outlines our entire year of teaching.
Yeah.
So we plan our entire year in advance. And I think one of the neat things is finding all the ways that you can find resonance with the current moment, even when you plan ahead. But if you are new to the community online, the journal is available in a digital download. It's obviously it's not that. Although if you really want, you can send us an email. We'll mail you one.
Yeah.
Wherever you are.
Yeah. If you're in town, we could leave one outside and you can just pick it up.
But they are available on in a PDF. So if you go to our website, I think it's just commons.church/journal. But if you scroll to the bottom of commons.church, there is a search bar. And if you search journal project or journal, it should come up, and you should be able to download the digital one there. So check that out. And then you'll know exactly what's coming up every week, all the way through until September, when the new journal would come out.
Also, it's beautiful. The journal is really beautiful. Like the images, the words, like all of our series have write-ups. And I'm always sort of like, go back and read them. I'm like, this is really lovely stuff. I mean, I helped write it, but it's really nice.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the crazy thing, Bobbi,
I know. I've already been thinking about it,
it's
Jared.
already, it's coming
I'm
up.
already thinking about it.
To prep for next year.
I know.
It's going to be a strange year to prep for 12 months, sort of not knowing
Totally.
what things are going to be like.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting time.
Absolutely. All right.
Do you have anything else on your agenda here? We're
I know.
we're just hitting an hour.
Yeah, we're great. Do we have any questions or anything? Nothing really. I'm not seeing anything.
Okay.
I did keep an eye on YouTube, so.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I wanted to kind of look back at what we did with Holy Week. I wanted to look forward a little bit, and I wanted to talk about Eastertide.
Cool.
We've done that. Oh, No, I feel good.
Okay.
I feel good, actually.
So I was going to say,
Yeah.
we have turned this into a podcast now.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, if you're watching this, then don't worry about it. But for some people who prefer to get their content in audio format, you like to walk, you don't really want to sit down and watch us for an hour, but for some reason you didn't want to listen to us for an hour, then we have made it a podcast. Or if you miss one, and it's just easier to catch up that way. So if you go to commons.church/podcasts now.
Because it's a podcast network.
Exactly. You can now get all of our podcasts. So normally there's a podcast from Kensington and Inglewood.
Yep.
Those feeds are still both available, but obviously right now we're only doing our online services from one parish. So those are basically the same thing right now. But for our Inglewood parish people, normally there is a whole feed for you to get your teaching from over there. Now there is the after party, which is this conversation, and also there is Between Sundays.
Right, second season.
And a new episode coming this week?
Next week, yeah.
Okay, so
I'll talk about it next week.
Okay. Save it for next week.
But if you haven't listened to, have you listened to?
I haven't yet.
I was going to ask you. I was like, I'm going to ask Jared. He hasn't listened. I know he hasn't.
Listen, it was a busy week, all right?
This is true. We're all just emerging.
A lot going on.
Yeah. So it's a great episode. I do really encourage you to listen to it. It's lovely. The first episode was Despair. The one coming out next week is called Panic.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if you haven't subscribed to
Between Sundays.
I was going to say Beyond Sundays.
I mean, I should have called it Beyond Sundays. That's lovely.
Between Sundays, then go there, subscribe, check that out.
Also follow Between Sundays on Instagram, because there are pictures of our guests and quotes, and it's also quite a lovely curated space.
Cool. Tomorrow night, living room worship.
That's right.
8 p.m. on Instagram Live. So that's a little different. We have people in our worship community here at Commons leading us. It's about a 25-minute experience. So it's short, but they've been really beautiful so far. And so somebody comes on, there's a little prayer, and then they lead 4 or 5 songs. Yeah. Just really simple in their homes.
It's nice.
From their living room. So that's tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Instagram Live. Thursday will be the new YouTube video on our channel.
Bright Thursday.
Yep. So I'll be talking about a little bit of stuff about resurrection on Thursday.
Friday. Community challenge.
Community challenge. Yeah, because last week we didn't because of Good Friday. This week we've got another community challenge coming up.
On the common area.
Yeah.
Just some kind of opportunity to engage with one another around the theme.
Very cool. And then the last thing I'll mention for families, if you have not checked out Commons Kids yet, our team is doing amazing work creating content for kids every week now.
So good.
It took us a little bit to get up and running, but it's really beautiful now. So Ryan and Jeannie and Ashley, the whole team there, are creating those videos for your families. Then we're integrating that with some of the teaching and the music and different things. So
it's beautiful.
There's a whole channel on YouTube for Commons Kids. You can search that, you can subscribe. But we'll be doing more content weekly. That way you can
it's great stuff.
Kids to remain engaged with the community, but also the story of Christ during this time. We're going to give you some resources.
Yeah, how fun is that they get to do that in their homes?
Yeah.
It's quite lovely.
Lots of fun.
It is great. Cool.
All right.
Well, we're done.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
have a great
thanks,
night.
everyone.
We'll see you soon.